how many times really do we have to watch history repeat itself? The boom, the bust, that feeling of shock before we finally stop buying into that really seductive idea.
That incredibly dangerous illusion.
Exactly, the one that says this time is different.
That's the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That blind spot, that core psychological trap Andrew Ross Sorkin just brilliantly dissects in his book, 1929, Inside the Greatest Crash in Wall Street History, and how it shattered a nation.
Yeah, we're diving deep into that specific moment today. The Wall Street crash, it wasn't just the end of a decade. It fundamentally reshaped the economy for the whole century, led straight to the Great Depression.
It really did. And today we're doing something a bit different for you.
Right. We want you to know you're experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation. This is actually powered by Google's NotebookLM, and the idea is to give you deeper, more dynamic book summaries.
So think of this as a new, really in-depth approach to covering books. This is an extended summary.
Yeah, unlike our previous review, which, offered a more focused critique, this format gives you that comprehensive overview. We're tracing the ideas, the main arguments, the real-world impact of the whole thing.
We've definitely broadened the scope here. And honestly, if you like this expanded format, if you find it useful, please do let us know. Your feedback is really going to help us figure out what kind of content to make next.
Absolutely. So our goal today, we want to bring together the book's character-driven story, break down the complex financial stuff in a way that makes sense, and pull out those big themes, power, psychology.
And how the ambition, maybe even the naivety, of just a few powerful people could literally break a nation. It's quite a story.
So to really get the crash, you have to picture the time before it, right? The Roaring '20s.
Oh, definitely. Sorkin does a great job painting this picture.
Yeah.
An atmosphere of just unprecedented economic optimism, a kind of speculative fever that just gripped everyone.
It wasn't just a rising market. It was this belief in an endless boom.
Exactly. Markets just kept climbing, seemingly ignoring everything else. Even, growing political tensions simmering beneath the surface.
It sounds almost like an addiction, where the belief itself was the most valuable thing.
Well, the book argues pretty strongly that the crash wasn't just about economics. It was fundamentally a human drama, fueled by that potent mix of ambition, greed, and frankly, a pretty dangerous level of naivety among Wall Street's biggest players.
They really thought they'd beaten the cycle, that it could only go up.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
That's the core illusion Sorkin really picks apart. And what's really striking is how warnings were just brushed aside.
Right. Sorkin highlights these ignored signals, doesn't he? People who saw it coming.
He talks about figures like economist Roger Babson. He publicly warned about a terrific smash way ahead of time, pointed all the speculation, people borrowing too much money.
But in that climate of excitement, they were just dismissed.
Worse than dismissed. They were often publicly mocked by prominent financial leaders. Babson certainly was.
So it wasn't just an oversight. People were actively pushing back against caution.
Yeah, you had figures like Charles Mitchell, the head of National City Bank, telling the public everything was fine, fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
Even while his own bank was deep in the speculative game. It feels less like an accident and more like actively keeping the party going, silencing the doubters.
Wow. And the book captures the feeling of it all, the contrast between the high times and the crash itself.
Oh, absolutely. Sorkin makes it very visceral. He contrasts the almost manic energy of the boom with the sudden, brutal shock of the collapse. You feel like you're right there on the trading floors.
Amidst the chaos, the flashing ticker tapes, the panicked traders.
Exactly. Watching fortunes evaporate in minutes as people scramble desperately.
And this is where it gets kind of chillingly relevant, isn't it? Sorkin draws parallels to today.
He does. He points out how these patterns, the market euphoria, the obsession with certain hot stocks, or back then, unregulated investment trusts, the big power struggles behind the scenes, they echo things we've seen again and again.
That tendency to believe this time is special, it seems pretty persistent.
Depressingly so. The human element, that belief in exceptionalism, seems like a constant.
Okay, so let's shift a bit. How does Sorkin make this potentially dry financial history so, well, readable? Because it could easily be dense.
That's a key part of its success. He structures it almost like a thriller. It follows a clear chronological path, anchored by specific dates. And crucially, it doesn't just stop in October 1929. It goes on to cover the fallout, the immediate aftermath.
So the timeline gives it structure, but you mentioned characters earlier. That's important too.
Hugely important. Sorkin introduces the key players, the financiers, the politicians, the big thinkers early on, and you follow them throughout the story. They keep reappearing.
So it feels less like abstract history and more like watching individuals navigate this crisis.
Exactly. It gives it the drama of a thriller, but with the weight of real history. You see how their personal choices and flaws directly impacted global events.
And that helps explain the tricky financial concepts too.
It does. Because Sorkin avoids getting lost in abstract economic theory. He focuses on the actions people took and the immediate consequences, like margin calls, for example. That's central.
Okay, margin calls. How widespread was buying on margin? Was it really common for ordinary people to be that leveraged? And how does Sorkin convey just how fast everything could unravel?
He explains it with brutal clarity. During the boom, borrowing to buy stocks was incredibly easy. You might put down just 10%, maybe even less, and borrow the rest.
So, tiny down payment.
Tiny. Which meant if the stock price dropped even a little bit, bang, the margin call hit. You had to pay back the entire loan, like, right now.
And if you couldn't,
Your stocks were sold immediately to cover the debt. Forced selling. And because so many people were leveraged so heavily and was largely unregulated, a small dip triggered this massive wave of forced selling.
turning a correction into a free fall.
Instantly, within hours. Sorkin shows how that mechanism just accelerated the panic dramatically.
And it wasn't just individuals. He also talks about these investment trusts.
Right. These were like early, unregulated versions of mutual funds or hedge funds. Financial leaders pooled investors' money, leveraged it up massively, and used it to speculate, further inflating the bubble. They were complex, often opaque.
Hard to know what was really inside them.
Very hard. And then you also had things like short selling, which added another layer of complexity and controversy. People betting against the market, which was often painted as unpatriotic by those trying to keep prices up.
So Sorkin gives you enough understanding of these tools to see how they fueled the fire without getting bogged down in textbook definitions.
Precisely. You understand what they did and why it mattered in that moment. As reviewers pointed out, he gives you just enough to know what is going on without making you want to take a long nap. The focus always comes back to the people making the decisions.
It's fascinating how these mechanisms interplay with human psychology. Understanding this really helps frame the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Which actually makes this a pretty good moment to pause for just a second.
Good idea. And while we're pausing, we'd like to encourage you to check out Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel.
It offers AI book analysis, summaries, critiques, lots of content designed to inspire reflection and rational thought across a whole range of books. Definitely worth exploring.
Okay, so back to the book. Beyond the market mechanics and the characters, there's this whole other layer, right? The political drama.
Oh, yeah. The book really captures this intense, raging battle between Wall Street and Washington happening behind the scenes. This wasn't just a market crash. It was a fundamental fight over power. Who really ran the country? Who was going to step in? Who was accountable?
And Washington wasn't really equipped to handle it.
Not at all. That's where Sorkin's research is just incredible. He shows the almost complete lack of regulatory power in Washington back then. Compare that to the immense kind of self-policing power held by Wall Street figures, like the leadership at J.P. Morgan.
And President Hoover's administration.
Largely hands-off initially. Believing in that laissez-faire idea, the market will fix itself, which basically left Washington paralyzed as the panic spiraled.
That paralysis must have been terrifying. Sorkin shows the Wall Street titans actually trying to stop the bleeding themselves.
Yeah, literally. They banded together, pooling their own money, making huge buy orders on the trading floor to try and stabilize prices. They seem to believe their collective influence, their willpower, could actually turn the market around.
While Washington just watched.
Initially, yes. They were reluctant to intervene, maybe unsure if they even could legally. The research Sorkin did here is amazing. 8 years working on this book. He got access to records, even newly uncovered documents that shed light on this power vacuum, these previously unknown details.
That level of research really lifts it beyond just telling a story.
It does. It makes the book feel like a crucial blueprint. It helps you understand these cycles of speculation, the forces behind financial chaos, and maybe most importantly, the warning signs we still tend to ignore.
It really highlights how the lack of oversight and that concentration of power created this perfect storm, which the hubris of individuals then ignited.
That's a good way to put it. Exploited the weaknesses in the system.
So when you boil it all down, what's the core message for us today? What's the big takeaway?
I think at its heart, the book is a powerful study of power and psychology. It's about that constant tension between human ambition and, well, reality. It's a living history, showing how these larger-than-life characters driven by ambition and this almost naive belief in endless growth led straight to disaster,
So it's less about the specific financial instruments of the 1920s.
and much more about the recurring patterns,
Mm.
the human tendencies, the hubris among the powerful. That's the thread Sorkin traces so effectively.
It gives you a lens to see how these things play out again and again.
Exactly. It suggests the real danger isn't necessarily the complexity of the financial tools, the margin calls, the trusts, but the mindset driving their use. The enduring belief that our boom is different, that we've somehow transcended history's lessons.
Which leads to a pretty sobering final thought, doesn't it? Maybe the biggest risk revealed by 1929 isn't economic, fundamentally. Maybe it's us. Our collective inability sometimes to learn from the past.
That persistent, fatal confidence.
That this time, finally, will be different. Something to definitely reflect on.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this extended summary. It's been fascinating to unpack.
It really has. And if you want more, click the link on screen for our in-depth book critique. Don't forget to subscribe, share, maybe purchase the book via the link, and always think rationally.